Our main story tonight concerns subscriptions, the way that HBO from the very start made money. And while I don't need to show you this old promo for it, I do want to.
This house is hopping, people having a ball, laughing and clapping, watching it happen on the HBO Knockout Fall.
The HBO Knockout Fall is here, with blockbuster movies like Rambo, First Blood Part 2, Jagged Edge, Silverado, and Cocoon. Just call this number and order cable TV and HBO. You'll save 50% on installation and get this telephone alarm clock absolutely free.
It's magnificent. What happened to this company? Nowadays, when you sign up for HBO Max, all you get is access to this. But HBO used to throw in alarm clock phones that doubled as weapons that you could throw at your boyfriend during a fight, a theme song, and a cartoon mom and dad who you can tell go absolutely feral after dark. Those two have never met a bed they didn't wreck, shred, and moisten. And if you are shocked by how graphically I'm discussing these innocent cartoons, remember, this is HBO. You pay for the filth. Specifically, I want to talk about the fact that more and more things seem to have shifted to a subscription model nowadays. You've probably noticed how we've gone from buying music and movies to simply paying a monthly fee to access them. But subscriptions have also expanded to everything from clothing to beauty products to cleaning services to even this.
Taco Bell now testing a taco subscription service. It looks like it works like this. Customers pay $5 to $10 a month for what's called a Taco Lovers Pass. That lets them get one of a variety of tacos every day for 30 days.
It's true. Taco Bell's apparently offered something called the Taco Lovers Pass, which is coincidentally also what the news headline will read when people inevitably die from eating Taco Bell every day for a month. Subscriptions are now basically everywhere, and many of us don't even realise how much we spend on them, as one survey found Americans paid more than twice what they thought they did for monthly subscriptions, and nearly half report they still pay for one that they'd forgotten about or didn't use. And look, I am not saying that this is the biggest problem that we face in the world right now. That's obviously a three-way tie between the war in Iran, diarrhea lettuce, and what's happening in the donut industry. Guys, we're doing too much. Fruit Loops on a donut? The option should be icing, sprinkles, and that is it. Donuts don't need a special toppings bar. They're donuts. They're not frozen yogurt. Now, she needs help. She needs lipstick, a push-up bra, and as many crumbled-up M&Ms as you can shovel on her. But donuts are a natural beauty. Leave them be. But subscriptions are a universally annoying problem, and they are something that people do love to yell about.
There are so many hard things in life. Why is canceling a subscription one of them? And I'm talking to you, Paramount Plus. I'm talking to you.
Canceling my SiriusXM almost broke my fucking brain.
In the how-to, it says, hey, how to end your subscription. Go to end subscription button, but it doesn't exist.
Then I had to chat to the chatbot, and I didn't have time to chat to the chatbot. All I wanted to do was cancel the subscription. I didn't even have manners. All I said is, cancel my subscription. Hi, please just give us a few details, cancel my subscription. Please let us know, how can we keep you? Cancel my fucking subscription.
That is just an excellent use of TikTok, because I do think we need an outlet where we can vent about daily annoyances, especially given that priests must be tired of hearing it by now. Do you have something you'd like to confess, my child? Yeah, why are mobile orders that came through after in-restaurant orders prepared first? Tell me that, God, is bullshit. So, given all that, tonight, let's talk about subscriptions, how out of hand they're getting, the tricks companies use to lock you into them, and one simple solution that could give consumers at least some power back. And let's start by acknowledging that certain things, like newspapers, have long had a subscription component. But the internet has made it much easier to apply a subscription model to basically everything. And I do mean everything, from the Apocabox, which sends you doomsday prep supplies, to Bonebox, which I'll let this YouTuber tell you about.
This is the Bone Box, and it comes from Skulls Unlimited. And yes, it is what you might think it is. It is a box for bones. This is a $30 mystery box. It does contain a skull. Now, they had two, not human, they do have two tiers. This is a $30 one, and here is the skull. So that is an American minx.
OK, I'll be honest. I didn't think you were talking about human skulls there until you quickly said not human, and now I'm just not so sure. But it's not just boxes of bones people subscribe to, it's also how many of us consume media nowadays. You can get subscriptions for books and for music and for TV and movies, and all of that is the end result of a much larger shift that started in the late 90s when Netflix launched its DVD rental subscription service, and companies like Salesforce pioneered a cloud-based subscription model for software, or what we now call software as a service, with Adobe and Microsoft soon following them. And before long, any product or service that could be repackaged as a subscription started becoming one. Even appliances and devices that you used to be able to buy and own outright started becoming smart products with a subscription component. You can now find this model used in everything from baby alarm clocks to smoke alarms to light bulbs to even litter boxes. Perfect for anyone who's ever thought, I wish there was a way to make it more expensive for my cat to take a shit. And the auto industry in particular has started leaning into subscriptions hard.
$8 a month for remote start on certain Toyotas, $20 a month for BMW's enhanced cruise control.
Hands-free cruise control sure is nice, but are you willing to pay $75 a month for it?
So if your car payment is $600 a month, it's now $675.
General Motors expects subscriptions to bring in as much as $25 billion a year by 2030, just under what Netflix earned last year.
Part of me says, though, well, you've already bought the hardware, so, just let me use it.
Yeah, GM plans to eventually rake in, from subscriptions alone, revenue comparable to that of Netflix. Which is shocking given that GM, unlike Netflix, doesn't even offer you the chance to see LA's most Botoxed realtors wearing the least practical outfits you have ever seen. Their skin is on display, their shoes are legally stilts, and there is simply no way for them to pee until they get home. And sometimes you might not even realise that you're buying a product with a subscription component until after the fact. For instance, HP now sells printers with a subscription service called Instant Ink. And just watch the nasty surprise that this woman got when her new printer's free trial expired.
I went to print like a packing label or something, and it just wouldn't print at all. And I couldn't, there's no message on my computer that was explaining it.
And the reason it's not printing says payment method needs updating.
Cannot print with the installed cartridge. As you can see, this page is printed fine.
That's infuriating.
Yeah,
I would be so mad if I'm trying to print something out and my printer is like keeps printing out a page that says I can't print, I won't print.
Maggie's printer still had ink in it when it stopped working. It turns out that when your Instant Ink subscription expires, or if you cancel it, HP remotely kills your cartridges.
Yeah, that's pretty annoying, isn't it? She understandably assumed she owned the ink that came with her printer, but suddenly she couldn't use it. Which does feel like a waste, although I'll tell you one purchase that she made that definitely wasn't a waste there, and I think we all know what it is. Say it with me, everyone. The nails, honey, that's right. Look at the colour combo, the design, the shape, my God, the shape. It's like a junior stiletto with a whiff of almonds. Nails like that tell me three things about that woman. She's got taste, she's got style, and she doesn't fuck around. A person with those nails does not make decisions lightly. I am positive. If she knew signing up for that subscription would give HP remote control of her ink cartridges, she'd have said to them what I assume she says to anyone asking her to open a can of soda. Sorry, that is someone else's journey, not mine. But as irritating as that is, there's an obvious reason companies love this model. As HP CEO told investors, we make more money per customer when they're in the subscription program. And that money is consistent, recurring revenue. But the benefits for companies don't even stop there, as subscriptions also give them access to a shit ton of data about you. In fact, here is a former Salesforce executive who now runs a company that helps businesses manage their subscription services, laying out his pitch to clients.
What you really need to do is really need to think of what is it that you're really after. Companies like Whirlpool or GE, they really only deal with their customers once every 7 years or so when they buy a new product. And so these manufacturers are realizing we're in like 70% of the households in the US, and we should be able to collect information about people and understand what do they do, how often do they eat, how often are they cooking, how often do they use their microwave, how often do they washing their clothes, and think about a whole different service. So imagine instead of having a washing machine, it's a smart washing machine. It knows how often you're using it. When you run out of detergent, detergent simply shows up in the mail. It knows that you just had a child, so you're gonna be using it more often. It actually adjusts to your needs.
That is so unsettling to me. No company needs to know I had a child. There is a reason that you start birth announcements with dear family and friends and not to whom it may concern at the Whirlpool Corporation. And it's also just Unnecessary. If you want to know if someone's had a kid, there are way more obvious clues than them washing more clothes. How about, are their eyes hollow? Do they look like they're taking at most 2 showers a week? Do they spend the 1 hour a day they get to themselves watching Beast games in a catatonic state? Does a barista getting their coffee order wrong elicit Steel Magnolias level sobs? Are they wearing a backpack in a restaurant? Those are all easy ways to spot a new parent that crucially don't involve spying on them through their fucking washing machine. Now, obviously, there is a pretty simple solution for you here. Don't buy these smart products. And if you don't want a subscription anymore, just cancel it. But while that is easy to say, cancelling can be way harder to pull off in practice, and for a few key reasons. First, let's admit, as a species, people can just forget. In fact, anytime subscriptions get covered on the news, someone invariably offers a confession like this.
Guys, this is so funny because yesterday I realized that my gym account has been charging me twice every month for the past, 4 months.
Well, I forgot that I was subscribed to Apple TV for 6 months.
I made this list and I realized that 3 or 4 of the services I had just not used in years. One of them being an e-fax service. Am I on national television right now that I had a fax service?
Look, I am trying not to be judgmental here, but you didn't know you were paying for an e-fax service for years? I think it genuinely might be less embarrassing to admit that you wrote in Jill Stein in the 2020 election. I would rather stand outside the Today Show and hold up a sign reading, "People were wrong about Madam Web," than admit something like that. But the thing is, sometimes it's less people forgetting they had a subscription and more them not realising that they'd signed up for one in the first place, which can be easy to do. Maybe you signed up for a bundle, so you subscribed to, say, Lift Pink, and they threw in a year of Grubhub Plus, and you didn't realise that after a year, Grubhub Plus automatically converts into a paid subscription. Companies have gotten very good at making it incredibly easy to sign up for subscriptions by accident, often by employing what are called dark patterns, which I know sounds like the title of Jeremy Renner's next album of song-like sound mistakes. But it's actually a term describing companies using deceptive design choices to manipulate you into making decisions you might not have intended. Take Amazon Prime, which, in addition to offering free shipping, also provides access to some of the best shows that only your dad watches. Prime has been a massive success for Amazon. It's the main driver behind the more than $44 billion Amazon made on subscriptions last year. But a few years back, the company got into big trouble after the FTC claimed that it had used a variety of dark patterns to trick people into signing up for Prime, with this reporter describing just one of them.
So originally, Amazon Prime was $99 a year. It's up to $149 a year now. But let's show you real fast here. So you put something in your cart, you go to the payment page, you click the yellow button as you go to process your way through the checkout. This is the payment page. We forward one page here. What you get is when you go to checkout, you get a pop-up. Right. And instead of the yellow button that you would have been clicking all the way to just kind of proceed as normal, all of a sudden, the sign up for Amazon button is the yellow one now. Oh, boy. And the proceed as normal button is not.
Yeah, that's pretty sneaky. And it is easy to see how someone could fall for that, particularly if they speak English as a second language or are older and a little less tech-savvy, or they can't read at all. The point is, it sure seems like Amazon was being deliberately confusing there. In fact, a former Amazon employee literally told reporters, quote, "We have been deliberately confusing." And not only are there internal Amazon documents stating the issue of accidental Prime sign-ups is well documented, but in several cases, fixes for these issues were actually proposed and considered, but because they resulted in lower subscription growth, when tested, they were shelved by executives, because of course they were. But while companies clearly go out of their way to make it incredibly easy to subscribe, they can make cancelling a fucking nightmare. Take LA Fitness. You can sign up for a membership there online. But, as the FTC pointed out last year, cancelling it was a lot harder.
The FTC says LA Fitness and its sister brands didn't just make canceling memberships difficult, they made it nearly impossible. The agency accuses the gym's parent companies of forcing some consumers through a maze of red tape. Some had to print long forms requiring long-forgotten login credentials, while others had to show up in person and speak with a specific manager who was often unavailable. In some cases, people were required to send certified mail just to cancel. And even after some members contacted their banks to stop payments, they alleged the companies continued to charge them, sometimes under new account numbers.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. And look, to be fair, Gyms have made it hard to cancel memberships for years now. It is so well known, it was literally a subplot on an episode of Friends. It was actually one of the more relatable scenarios that gang found themselves in, with perhaps the least relatable being when Joey met Prince Andrew's ex-wife Fergie and didn't ask her what she knew and when. But nowadays, everything feels like a gym membership, and companies can use some of the same dark patterns that got you into a subscription to confuse you when you're trying to get out of it. To give you just one example, take HelloFresh. Until recently, here's what you had to do to cancel your subscription. You'd go to your account page and then have to scroll down to the bottom where you'd find a bolded Pause My Deliveries button and a less obvious Cancel one. If you hit Cancel, it took you to a page listing all the benefits of subscribing with a bolded button to stay subscribed and then further down an unhighlighted Cancel button. But let's say you hit Cancel again. At that point, you'd have to tell them why you're cancelling by clicking one of a number of reasons. You could not proceed unless you'd picked one. And then it'd take you to a page offering you a fix for that complaint with, again, a highlighted button to stay subscribed and an unhighlighted Cancel Anyway box. And if you clicked on that box, it would finally cancel your subscription while also, after you've gotten used to clicking unhighlighted buttons to keep cancelling, an unhighlighted one to undo the fucking cancellation. And look, you might be thinking, well, look, if you just pay attention and read what you're clicking on, you should be fine. But here's the thing. Pay attention and read are two very difficult things to ask of the entire population all the time. And companies are banking on that. And it is by no means just HelloFresh. In fact, in the same lawsuit where the FTC accused Amazon of tricking people into signing up for Prime, it pointed out just how hard they made it for you to undo that mistake.
It also claims Amazon made it very difficult to navigate canceling a Prime subscription. With a 4-page, 6-click, and 15-option process, the FTC says Amazon called Iliad after the nearly 16,000-line ancient poem.
Yeah, that's pretty telling, isn't it? You don't name something the Iliad because it's easy to get through. You do that because it's a dense slog that makes you want to kill yourself. If you wanted a literary shorthand for something easy to get through and obvious to figure out, you'd name it the Da Vinci Code, remember? The answer to the riddle is Apple. Don't worry, that's only a spoiler if you're a complete idiot. Amazon ultimately settled that case for $2.5 billion and had to make changes to its process, though it still denies it ever tried to deceive Prime members, and sure. But again, Amazon is not alone. Uber, Match, Vonage and Shutterstock have all faced similar lawsuits, and some companies will go even further to trap you in subscriptions. Adobe, for instance, has made it a practice to charge a hefty early termination fee to end subscriptions. But as the FTC put it, they hid the relevant details in fine print and behind optional text boxes and hyperlinks, and they definitely knew what they were doing, given in internal emails, one employee wrote there'd be absolutely no way to kill off that early termination fee or talk about it more obviously without taking a big business hit, and that the fee was a bit like heroin for Adobe, which isn't good. Describing anything as a bit like heroin is bad, even if it is something harmless. If you described your boyfriend's obsession with basketball player Luka Doncic as a bit like heroin, I'd tell you to dump him and I'd tell him to get a real personality. And that is me being polite, because if you asked me after I'd had a few Cosmos, I'd tell you to stop choosing men that ignore you like your father, but we all know you're not ready to hear that. And while Adobe and other companies will rationalise all of this as just giving customers greater flexibility and convenience, it is clear people are fed up with this. Frustration with subscriptions may be the one remaining thing that actually unifies all of us across party lines, which is incredible, as it seems we can't even agree on simple things nowadays, like Super Bowl performers or which Pokemon would be the most delicious. And I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. Gyarados or a Magikarp, something like that, maybe Psyduck. But the very fact that you're not even open to Ditto is why this is such a point of discussion. So what can we do here? Well, there's stuff that you can do on a personal level. You can check your bank accounts for recurring charges. On iPhones, if you go into settings, tap your name and then subscriptions, you can see everything you've subscribed to via the App Store. There's actually a similar feature on Android. Also, try not to sign up for any free trials without setting a reminder to cancel them. And if you've been paying for an eFax service for years, just throw your phone into a river. You can't be trusted with it anymore. But it shouldn't just be on individuals to have to fight all this bullshit. And there's actually a policy solution that would fix a bunch of what you've seen tonight. And it was pushed by Biden's head of the FTC, Lena Khan. It's called Click to Cancel. And when you hear it described, it sounds pretty reasonable.
Under this new click to cancel rule, canceling must be quick and easy. So if you signed up online, there needs to be a click to cancel option. So if you signed up in person, the FTC will require the option to cancel over the phone or online. Now, the FTC also says companies must make information easy to find before obtaining your billing information, and consumers must be informed of what they're agreeing to before signing up.
Right. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? And it's kind of shocking that we even needed the government to require that. If Starbucks announced a new company policy of the display bagels are not to be used for anything other than eating, I'd have a lot of questions about why that wasn't already a rule to start with. But unfortunately, last summer, just days before Click to Cancel was supposed to take effect, it was voided by one of the most conservative federal courts on procedural grounds. And while Trump's FTC has hinted they might draft their own rule, we'll see what that looks like or if it even happens. And I should say, some states have enacted their own protections. California was one of the first to do that, and just this year, both Virginia and Louisiana passed their own versions of Click to Cancel. Meanwhile, New York City has a version taking effect here in October. In fact, if you live somewhere without good protections and are struggling to cancel a subscription, one thing some people have said works is simply changing your location to California, as that can apparently sometimes force a service to offer you a Click to Cancel option. But obviously, pretend to live in California should not be the system here. And for the last time, I do know subscriptions are not the most pressing issue in the world right now, because that would be war, poop, and pick-me donuts. Remember? We all agreed on that. But it is frustrating that there is a tantalisingly easy fix to a ubiquitous problem within reach, and we can't seem to have it. It's honestly incredibly rare that we are discussing a story on this show where the solution is simply there should just be a button for that. But when it comes to subscriptions, we could actually have one of those buttons that you could push once and it would fix your problem and it would instantly improve people's lives more than I'm comfortable admitting right now. So I'd argue companies should give us that fucking button. And if they won't, they should be forced to. And look, that is me being polite. Because if you ask me after a couple of Cosmos, I'd say they should try redirecting all the energy they put into developing labyrinthine systems to trap their customers into making products or services people actually want to keep buying. But we all know they're not ready for that conversation.